the Arbiter has a dishonor cost for refusal, but Crane players are going to be increasingly happy to see dishonored characters across the board from them. I mean, obviously, you've got For Shame, you have Duel to the Death now, which is a super powerful card and an immediate contender for Restricted List of the Future. And of course, yeah, Crane also have the option of Steward of Law as well to drop a Steward of Law in and make this duel effectively unrefusable. So the main strengths of this guy are he is a conflict character, so he can pop into conflicts as required. His stats are not particularly threatening, but the main application for this guy is probably going to be dropping him in, threatening to stymie a conflict or basically block a conflict for an opponent, forcing them to bid quite high on their honor dial to make sure their guy doesn't get bowed and sent home while you bid low and effectively pay 2 fate to steal 3 or 4 honor from them. So yeah, I think this is more a dishonor style of card than it is a practical card. But but again, there could be some mind games involved in this guy where the Crane player is quite happy to bid high and just block a conflict. So he's definitely interesting. Definitely interesting. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he's a duelist as well means that he helps support a range of cards. So yeah, he's fine. He's fine. He's not at that kind of top tier power level, I don't think, but I think he's absolutely serviceable. So
before I move it on to Owen, you were mentioning this next duel, the duel to the death. So give us a quick talk and then pass it over to Owen, Justin.
Okay, so Duel to the Death is a 1-cost event which says action during a conflict initiate a military duel. Your opponent may dishonor his or her character to refuse the duel, otherwise resolve the duel and discard the duel's loser. This is I think it's a huge power card. It's incredibly powerful, in fact, and I think it has some really, really awful implications for competition in terms of tower building in dueling versus dueling decks, and actually just in general for the game, for characters that for expensive characters that you want to have around for any length of time. Again, it's got a dishonor cost for refusing the duel. There are a lot of ways now for Crane to make that difficult or impossible. They can dishonor you prior to a duel to the death, either with a For Shame or some other effect. They can drop a Steward of Law in to make the duel unrefusable. And this basically just wipes a huge amount of value off the board in one shot for almost no investment, or at least no significant investment above and beyond what your deck was already trying to do if you're a tower dueling deck.
Yeah, you gotta out-tower the other tower. Yeah.
So I mean, the implications this has in mirror matches is basically your tower has to be the biggest tower or you've lost the game. And that is a shocking design decision, in my opinion. So yeah, I really don't like this card. This card will be on the restricted list very, very quickly, I think. And the fact that the type of duel, it isn't restricted to a specific type of conflict. It isn't restricted to duelists only. So this is just a straight out bully card that is going to cause some real problems. And yeah, I'm not entirely sure what they were looking to achieve with this card in the environment. So, but well, yeah, there's more to say about that once we get on to kind of Phoenix and the state of Phoenix at the moment. But anyway, yeah, don't like it. Super, super powerful, ridiculously powerful card. Terrible design, in my opinion. Not good for the game. So, over to you, Owen.
Yeah, it's so we've been waiting for the actual, hey, why can't we kill people cards? And here they're coming. We've had a few before, but this is the lethal battle duel that people have been asking about for a while. And this is a really strong card. I'm looking at this one and going, cool. I was looking for one of the splashes for Berserkers is Crane, and there's a lot of good solid cards in there, but you've got a suite now for Crane where you can run 3 Steward of Law, you can run 3 Duelist Training, which is the bow action if when you military challenge or military duel, and you can run two Duel to the Death, and that's pretty nasty if you've got Berserkers, because hey, Crane are going to have to work to bully duel a military duel effectively. Berserkers really don't have to. Crab have horrible stuff they can play, like Spreading the Darkness. I mean, when you do stuff like I'm going to spread in the darkness, and now I'm going to start, throwing out duels, that can make certain things very, very awkward to deal with. So I'm a big fan of this card in terms of power level. Like just right the turns, like this could be restricted. It's going to be very unpleasant for people. People are going to lose to this card. They're going to flat out lose to it, and that's going to have to be something that people get aware of. 3 influence seems about right in this card.
1 influence would have balanced it. That's what I'm saying here.
I'm not sure it would have. I think 3 seems about right.
Makes it too hard to splash. It would be more. It'd be fairer if I could splash it. That's what I'm saying here.
Yeah, not exactly probably what you want to do, but it's a good, powerful card. Is it too powerful? That's a good question. There are going to be some matchups where, like, we're seeing the tower more and more, so I'm not too upset about there being things to possibly deal with towers. But this card is the kind of thing a tower is much better using than dealing with a tower. I'm very interested to see this Fallen in Battle start to see a bit more play now, just because of a couple of things happening with it. That there are more, I'm going to throw this giant unit in the way and put off a bunch of nasty effects, and maybe not win the battle, but certainly pull off a bunch of nasty effects.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see what the meta looks like about that, because you're seeing a lot of, I've got this broken 5-cost or 4-cost personality, I'm going to keep them around forever. You can see, like, Toshimoko with a couple of attachments going, jump away, ooh, to the left, to the left. That, like, 2 of these, like, one of these is going to be rough. 2 of them in a row is going to be backbreaking. That is what's going to be the case. And you're going to need to have some sort of reaction to it. So it's interesting. Is it just more action cancel for everybody? There are actions you just have to cancel. And this might be one of them. Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm quite surprised by the style of it as well, because like we already had Miromoto Ratsugu, who seemed like he's a fantastic character, absolutely fantastic, but seems to have set a kind of model for how kill effects in the game should be. So if you had no faith, he killed you. If you had 1 faith, he removed a faith. With the idea that faith kind of represents maybe the number of lives a character has left, or something similar. But you've got a character with 3 fate on them, duel to death, instantly dead. The design comes as a bit of a surprise for me, especially, and obviously we've talked already about the dishonor being an option. You can always choose to dishonor your character, except you can't always. And Crane of all clans are absolutely fantastic at it. And the current deck that I'm running is the Dragon Dueling deck. And as more cards come out like this, and especially as we hit the Crane pack, more and more I kind of expecting Mirumoto's Dice Show to just be lifted over into the Crane side, and anything that the Dragon are currently doing is just going to be done better by the Crane Dueling. So yeah, it's
I mean, another thing that's worth bearing in mind is that Crane now have Duel to the Death and Noble Sacrifice, which are 2 straight-out kill cards on top of the new Shigenja they're getting, which allows them to lock out characters from attacking and defending. And they also have the bird, who can also shut out people from attacking you. So there is the basis of an absolutely brutal control deck there, where they just clear your board and then you never get to interact with another character for the rest of the game. So there are some real warning signs. Obviously it depends on how the rest of the environment develops and the other cards that enter the environment around it. But I mean, do we really want to be on the receiving end of games where you play your stuff and then turn 2 or 3 your board gets killed and you never get to take another meaningful action for the rest of the game? I'm not keen. I'm not keen.
And obviously, the flip side of that is we don't want a pack that's going to go straight into the binder and never get played. We want actual cards that we're going to play around with and have some fun with. So it's a delicate, tricky kind of balancing act between environment shredding and just sitting in the binders and never seeing play.
Can I mention one minor thing really quickly?
Go for it.
I'd like to say that I'm really happy that they've done something we asked about, and they're putting flavor text in all these cards. So most of the cards in this pack have flavor text.
Ooh,
so
spot.
Yeah,
that's nice, and it's nice that they're doing that. Secondly, minor quibble on Duel of the Death. I like the art, but is the perspective really weird, or is that just me?
I mean, it does look like the crane guy is about 2 feet taller than the lion guy, but yeah, it's a little strange. It's a little peculiar, all right.
This is the crane artisan's rendition of the scene rather than necessarily the reality.
Absolutely. Or perhaps this is actually the lion's rendition of it. The crane was 7 foot tall, and there we were, a hair over 4'10", and I don't know, but yeah, the art on that is a little strange, all right. And like the crane guy appears to have his knee up or his leg up on, I don't know. It's very.
He's down on the slope, but it's still taller. I'm just saying.
This guy's still taller, and he has. Yeah, and he's. I mean, plus, you got to admire the crane guy's moxie as well. The pure calm of just casually leaning forward, elbow on thigh, straight into the drawn sword of a lion clan warrior. Yeah, but I guess that's just how the crane roll.
That does not look like a classic Kikita style draw. Anyway, it looks like it's gonna be fun. All right, we've dispensed with the crazy cards. Let's move on to something a little bit more reasonable. Earth becomes sky. So Eoin, let's you take this away before Justin explains why it's totally fine, not a problem.
Okay, this is an Earth spell, Earth Becomes Sky, 1 cost, Earth roll only. Hey, it's a good Earth cost spell. Yay. Fabulous. So this is probably the first Earth roll only card. Well, not quite the first, but nearly the first. That's genuinely amazing. Reaction. After a character an opponent controls is readied, bow that character. Now, old L5 players remember Earth Becomes Sky as this horrible card that said, hey, I drop a rock in your head, you can't do anything, Yes. So, this one is literally drops a rock on somebody. They're going to ready. Oh no, down you go again. Uh-oh, spaghetti-os, down you bow. So, if your opponent attempts to ready one of their characters with an action, you can bow them. However, you can also react to them readying at the end of the turn and bowing them. So that's pretty strong. There's no requirement to have a Shigenja. There's no requirement to have a character at all. All you need is an Earth Roll and Splash Phoenix, and you can play this. And it's a really powerful effect. Given the towers, given everything like that happening, be able to go, that tower that really annoys me, I'm just going to bow that character. Now, even though it's a spell, it doesn't combo with Kunasawa because it's a reaction, right? Correct. So there's at least no double use. It's also only 1 influence cost. It's a really strong card. If you're splashing Phoenix or you're playing Phoenix and your Earth Roll, I can't see a reason not to play this. It's really, really, really strong because targeted bow actions in this game, you need to be able to project forward who's going to be a problem next turn, but at the end of a turn, that's not too hard. So it's really strong against the big tower units. The guy's going, okay, this person's going to be a huge factor this turn. You go, nope, they're bowed. So their opponent actually knows when they're buying their guys, but it's still really, really strong. And double plays of this, because there's no restriction on playing multiple copies if you want to prevent 2 of their characters from straightening, very strong. Very strong, particularly in a game that can have critical turns very quickly. Like you play this on turn 2 going into a big turn 3, that can be a paddling. That can be a real paddling.
You could, if you had 3 in hand, you could just bow out 3 of your opponent's characters as you go into the next turn, possibly the last turn of the game.
Yeah, easily. It's very strong. Very, very strong card.
Justin, why is this card fine and nothing to worry about?
There is, because it's Earth Roll only. That's about the only justification. This card is super good, ridiculously good. One thing I think that's become very clear in the previews that we've seen is that FFG are still super desperate to speed up the pace of this game. Like the Rhino is ridiculous and can lead to incredibly quick games. Cards like Duel to the Death are going to end games effectively.
Hold on.
What?
I know we're slowing the game down, but we're going to duel. So take out your dial and put it to a number. And all right, reveal dials. Now you can go on. Carry on.
Yeah. But if that 5 seconds means chopping the next half an hour of the game out because you just lost, that's speeding up the game. So I mean, and again, like the Rhino is going to speed things up. Duel to the Death is going to speed things up in terms of just ending the game effectively much sooner than it otherwise would have.
Yeah.
Earth Becomes Sky is another one of those cards that is simply going to potentially blow a person out because they're not like. I mean, Earth Becomes Sky at least has a bit more interaction because, ready effects are available, and I presume will become more powerful once this enters the environment. But even so, like it's another blowout card, or potential blowout card, because as Eoin was saying, it can prevent characters from readying at the end of a turn. So it's this huge board control element that is very, very cheap and very, very easy to put into effect. It's incredibly powerful. And Earth Roll only is, I mean, without Earth Roll only, this card would be an instant 3 of. This card would, I mean, even given the almost degenerate level of, Phoenix cards general, this card would still see automatic play as a 3 of. It's that good. So it's very, very strong card. But that said, it's a card that could see quite a bit of play. I think certainly at the moment in Scorpion Ninja. I think this card feeds directly into, Shinobi. Scorpion Shinobi. I think this feeds directly into what Shinobi want to do, which is control their opponent's board, and then use covert and all their other dirty tricks to run circles around people and blow up their provinces. And this really helps in that with basically no investment beyond 1 influence cost and 1 fate, which is a tiny cost to pay for the return that it offers. So it's a super good card.
I mean, some of the things we've said already, it is Earth Roll only, and we've definitely been looking for cards to kind of boost the Earth Roll, so it is actually nice to see. One thing I will say about this is it is very clearly telegraphed. So when you draw this in, turn 2, probably not going to be able to play it till the end of turn 2. So it's not going to help you much in the turn you draw it. It's really going to be helping you the turn after. And you'll have to obviously have that fate left over from as an investment into the next turn, as it were. And your opponent then goes into their dynasty phase with full knowledge that that character is bowed out and is not going to be straighting until the end of that turn. So I kind of think of it like if I was comparing it to Muramoto's Fury, which is 1 cost. You can only do it on the defense, but it does bow and send home. But you do it that turn, it's a little bit more of a blowout, more of a shock. They go into that conflict hoping that, with that character, and then all of a sudden that character gets bad. Whereas with Earth Becomes Sky, so I think it's a fantastic card, but I certainly think people are maybe overestimating it a little bit. But it looks super good. All right, Tadaka. So Tadaka for Crab and for Phoenix. Obviously, the current Tadaka is absolutely amazing. So I'm imagining Phoenix aren't going to be particularly interested in playing Conflict Tadaka. No. How about Crab?
Not remotely.
Do Crab have the Shigenja for a disguised?
Kind of. We've got 1 3-cost Shigenja, 2 4-cost Shigenja, and a 5-cost Shigenja, plus the Maya Mystic, of course.
You can't. Although some of those are unique. You're not going to be replacing Kuniyori with. He rips off his face. It's a skull underneath.
No Shigenja double team. So this is a Crab, and only Crab and Phoenix can play it.
Yeah.
It is disguised Shigenja. He's got the same Tadaka stat line, which is reasonable. The 2 glory is a bit of a double-edged sword. The 5-3 is, hey, it's on stat for Crab, which isn't quite as good as we'd like, but hey, it's not bad. And disguised is a really potent effect. We'll have to see if Crab get any more Shigenja to use. But I mean, if you've got something like you've used up your Kuni Witch Hunter for the turn, they're out of Fate, and then you go, actually, I'm going to bring in Tadaka now as a ready character. That's double duty off that. And because we've got a 4-cost one, he's only costing you 1. Now, he's only there for the turn unless they had some Fate on them, but that's not bad. Now, his action is... it's interesting. Random discard is interesting. So long as you've got 1 character in your Dynasty discard pile, you remove 1 or more of them, look at that many random cards in your opponent's hand, choose and discard one of those cards. His effect is actually pretty strong. Even if you've only... Like, Yari's very strong, and Yari's effect is just effectively that, but you have to lose an honor instead of remove a character in the Dynasty card pile from the game.
Yeah. This
one is stronger. You can go, I'll remove 3, I'll look at your 3 cards, and I'll pick and discard one of them. Choosing and discarding a card from your opponent's hand is pretty effective. So if Crab got 1 or 2 more 2-cost or 3-cost Shigenja that were good, yeah. And if we get, like, the ironic thing is Crab are probably going to lose their Earth roll short because the new rolls are going to cycle in. Yeah. But if you look at these two, you could be kind of looking, you know what, if we've got a few more Shigenja, there might be a bit of a deck here in terms of a kind of a hand control-y, dishonor-y deck.
If you ignored the disguise trait, just ignored completely, just a 5-cost conflict character, would Tadaka still be a decent option for Crab?
He's not a bad option. We like Yari a lot. Now, Yari is better than Tadaka, but Tadaka is a conflict character, and you can't ignore that. Yeah, maybe. There's a style of deck that might be able to do it. You really want nearly a big money deck from. If you could get that kind of Crab, recycle your guys for extra Fate deck working, like with Taka and the Isuki Broker, which has proved tricky to get working.
Yeah, you desperately want that deck to work.
I keep trying it. It's nearly there, but not quite. Nearly there, but not quite. Having a 5-cost Bruiser in the conflict deck to go, wham, big dog, and now I start discarding more cards in your hand. That's kind of nice. So maybe not quite yet, I don't think, not immediately, but I can see him hanging around the binder waiting for his time. And hey, Yari's in the background of the character art, which again is nice. There's a lot of world building going on here about this. This is the tale of Tadaka in the Crowlands working with Yari and stuff. There's some nice stuff going on here. So I'm a fan.
So, Justin, the ability here is to remove dead characters, presumably from, the underworld, and he's got Yori in the background. Is this some form of necromancy?
I certainly hope so. I don't know. I don't know exactly where the flavor is coming from on this, but I don't know. I mean, the Kuni investigate zombies and such like, which shamble around the wastes. Maybe it's a reference to the work that Tadaka is doing in the Shadowlands. So who knows? Who knows?
And what would it take to get this version of Tadaka into the Phoenix decks?
Oh, pretty simple actually. The other version of Tadaka would have to be banned. That is the only condition under which this Tadaka should see play in Phoenix, while the other Tadaka is legal.
Would there be an option of maybe 2 Dynasty, 1 Conflict?
No. Dear God, no. No. Like, I mean, the thing is that, like, Dynasty Tadaka is an actual broken character. Like, he's broken. There's a really strong argument, which at this stage I honestly support, that he should just be banned. And while you have a character that powerful, there's just no way you should consider playing. I mean, like, Conflict Tadaka, Disguised Tadaka is certainly pretty cool, but he's nowhere on the... Like, he's not... The thing is, like, Tadaka isn't even as good as Kachiko. And Kachiko is a good character, but she's not a world-breaking character or anything like that.
Yeah,
whereas
she doesn't
Dynasty
make
Tadaka is... No. Whereas Dynasty Tadaka is literally a world-breaking effect. when he hits the table usually. So yeah, he's great. And if Dynasty Tadaka were to get banned, I could absolutely see this version of Tadaka seeing quite a bit of play in Phoenix actually, because they have enough non-unique four-cost Shigenja in Prodigy the Waves and Master Gisei Toshi that are tournament staples that he would regularly be hitting the board at one fate. So yeah, I mean, and effectively a one-shot, one fake 5/3 that can wreck your opponent's hand. So yeah, he would see playing under those circumstances, but until then, no, not a hope.
All right,
not a hope.
All right, let's see what else we have. So we've got Soft Skin, and we'll probably rush through some of these cards. I think this is the last one, is it? Yeah, this is the last one. So it's a 2-cost poison. Attached character cannot ready unless its controller discards the top 3 cards of his or her conflict deck. So yeah, more discard for the Scorpion. They definitely seem to be pushing them down a particular route. And then 2-cost for this. Doesn't seem great. I'm not particularly impressed, but hey, maybe they'll get that discard deck working at some point. Just not today. Go on.
Okay, one of the weird things about card games are there are single issue mill players who just want to play a mill deck. I don't get it, but they just want to play a mill deck. And that's fine. Except that milling people out in this game doesn't win you the game. It makes them lose 5 honor when they reshuffle.
Yep.
So if you're dishonor already, cool. But, you know, it seems a weak strategy. It seems the 2 fake cost is egregious. And there's not even a stat penalty. Couldn't it have a stat penalty at 2 cost? Couldn't it be -2/-2 or something? And then it's got that additional rider. So yeah, it is actually a pain rather than just, hey, I've got a mill 3. Like, if you're playing against a Dishonor deck, you're going to start drawing 1 card a turn. So you're not going to be milling through your deck after a while. So
and if mill ever does work, then people are just going to drop in 1 Karmic Balance, and all of a sudden you're shuffling your card back into your deck. So problem gone. Maybe they're setting up for some new interactions with this. Maybe they'll be looking for cards that go through the discard and then react based on that or something along those lines. But yeah, we'll pack this away in a look at this later kind of scenario. So there are a couple extra cards in there in the fans. We don't have the full details, but we can see that there's a Scorpion card that gives courtesy. I think it is the courtesy, which I think is the card draw one for the dishonored characters when they leave play, and then another Earth Province that's keeper only, where you cannot get buffs at it, so you're not going to bonsai when you're attacking that province. So they're interesting enough. Now, one of the things that they did mention with this is there are a couple of full art cards that you get as part of ordering directly from FFG. So, Owen, you were saying recently that they announced something at GAMA in relation to that?
Yeah, Asmodee were talking about having less because the retailers are there, and presumably they're not super happy about the FFG online store having additional bonuses if you pre-order from them.
Yeah.
And Asmodee assured people that, yeah, we're not going to be doing this as much anymore, or maybe not at all anymore. So I don't know if this is going to be a short-lived thing. So yeah, I don't fully get it. And I mean, it's kind of like 1 copy of each of these cards is just kind of a weird curiosity. Yeah. Like if you got 40 people together and you could make art backers out of them, maybe.
True.
It's like cool but random. But I can't imagine shops are happy about the idea of, well, you get more stuff if you order from our store, and people think, hey, I like stuff, so I'll order from their shop. And yeah, like free shipping within the continental United States. For the US, I imagine that's a concern, especially if your shop isn't doing big, steep, regular player discounts or anything.
Yeah, and then I did see some of the non-US players saying that there was basically no chance of them getting this because if they try order directly from the FFG store, they're doubling the price of the product because of the shipping.
Absolutely.
Anyway, yeah, that moving away is probably a good thing as far as I'm concerned. We definitely want our local game stores supported. We have a bunch of releases announced for the RPG, so I always think these are definitely worth keeping an eye on.
Just before we get to that, I do feel it's I just want to comment or ask what the hell is going on in the art for the Bonds of Blood Dynasty pack. Like, that does look like someone stabbing a sword through a giant chicken, right? A giant skeletal chicken. I presume it's meant to be a dragon. Yeah. I'm not sure. I don't know what's going on. But what is happening in that picture?
Wait, which picture is this?
The cover.
The cover for Bonds of Blood. There is someone driving a magical sword through a giant skeletal chicken.
Could it be a horse with wings or something?
It's a pretty big horse.
It is.
It's got spines along the back, which made me think it's got to be a dragon. But it's got wings. Are those wings? They might be wings.
They're not really wings.
It's got wings, then it's not.
Yeah.
Then it's If it's got wings, then it's not really it's not a Japanese or Asian dragon. I'm just curious. I really want to know. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm just curious to know. But yeah, giant skeletal chicken.
All right.
Anyway, on to the RPG.
Moving on. So deep in the Shadowlands, where they have skeletal chickens, apparently. So we've seen this one already. This is the upcoming source book for the Shadowlands. We know there's a little bit of crab stuff in it. We know there's a little bit of falcon stuff and a few extra bits and pieces. So we got some extra previews in relation to that. Was cool. This is one of the books that have recently been announced. So Courts of Stone brings it back to the kind of political side of things. So this for me at least is super interesting. We're going to see more on the kind of subtle interactions, specifically with the crane and the scorpion. And I think the phoenix feature in this book as well. I think Kyuden Asako appears. Yep, there it is. So actually, I should double check who does these. The maps that have been appearing in the L5 books have been absolutely fantastic. And it's one particular artist. I'm trying to remember her name. I should have had it here. What I'll do is I'll stick it in notes because she is absolutely worth following on Twitter, just because she posts every time one of the books goes up, so you can kind of see some of the art that's been done. But I absolutely love it, like the cutout of the cities and the castles showing the, she's almost got, carts and tables set and stuff like that. So you can almost feel like you're part of the actual world. It's absolutely fantastic. But yeah, so that's focused on the courts. Again, they're doing a lot of beautiful pieces of art for these, which it was the exact same as we were talking about. These were FFG exclusive for ordering through there. So presumably after these ones finish up, they won't be doing any more. The other one that they've started doing is they seem to be releasing an adventure with each of the packs, or each of the books that they release. So this is Winter's Embrace, which is the story pack that goes along with the court book. I think this is Yoritomo on the cover. Let me see if I can find him.
It certainly looks like an unmasked, or what an unmasked Yoritomo might look like. Yeah. But it could be a...
So it does look like it's focused near the Mantis Isles because they've got a map focusing specifically on that area. It seems to be set in one of the winter courts, presumably with the Mantis turning up. So there is Kyuden Doji, which is another one of those beautiful maps. And they've got little tokens that go along with them. And they've got a boat, a Kabune ship with it. So it looks like a super interesting story. We know from like the intro adventure and some of the packs that they've released, or I keep calling it packs, some of the books that they've released, that the story is developing a little bit through the RPG as well. So if you're like me, you're deep into the story and like keeping abreast of everything going on, it is definitely worth checking these out to keep up to date on all of the happenings. Do you guys have anything you want to add on those?
No. there's some interesting stuff going on with the like the maps are lovely. Definitely, there's some interesting stuff going on with the hey, let's do an adventure for court stuff. Let's do an adventure for Shadowlands stuff, and then doing a Shadowlands book at the same time, a court book at the same time. So yeah, it looks good. Looking forward to it. It's interesting they're putting kind of tokens for sort of pseudo map based shenanigans.
Yeah.
Which isn't usually a big thing in Alpha War. Like tactical combat isn't a huge thing, but it's useful for people from a representative point of view of here's where my character is, there's where your character is. And that's a good thing. So I mean, Alpha War can always do with a couple of good adventures, even if you're like maybe going, oh, maybe I'll play the old edition. Hey, adventures are always good. There are some interesting little changes in the lore that's popping up as a result of stuff like Emerald Empire, where you can actually cleanse Shadowlands taint now, which was something that you could only do using a Kuni ritual that destroyed the Kami in the area. So they're kind of saying, look, it's not inevitable that Rokugan will eventually be taken by the Shadowlands 1 inch at a time. So that's good, I suppose. And it means you can do more stuff with like Oni showing up without being, well, now these lands are tainted and all these people are tainted. You know?
Yeah, that's probably a good thing. The Shadowlands dynamic in a story is particularly nightmarish when you think about it too much. And that artist who is doing those town and city maps is Francesca Baerald. So if you pull her up on Twitter, she's FBAERALD, and I highly recommend following her because she does some absolutely fantastic work. All right, so that's the RPG stuff. So those are all the releases that are coming out. The next topic I want to get into, I guess it's a bit of a hodgepodge of stuff because obviously we're kind of playing our own decks and working through our own idea of where the meta is going. But we also have a bunch of elemental championships that have gone down. So we've had 15 appear since Children of the Empire released. So it's a decent spread. Now, the Hidden City Rollers, Simcoff in particular, has done some absolutely fantastic work in compiling it all. So I just want to pull out some of his numbers, just so we can kind of get an idea of what's been going on. This one is... The chart is a bit tricky to explain, I guess. It's a cumulative figure, so it basically is just showing the percentage of what clans have actually been winning events as it goes along. So really what we're interested here is the final breakdown. The final percentage is at the very end, because this is the part on the far right shows the total percentage across the entire period. So this one here that we're looking at is the Scorpion clan pack period, which has been pretty wild. It's like the 12th of January all the way up to February. So, I mean, it's even a bit before that, I'd say. So we've been looking at kind of 2 months, essentially. But in it, we can see, initially Lion didn't get any wins, and they've started kind of creeping in with 1 or 2 near the end. Phoenix have a decent, they're looking at over 20% of the victories. Crane, probably looking at 10, and then kind of numbers go down after that. Then we look at what's been happening with the new pack. So Children of the Empire came out. Obviously, this is a much more compressed time frame. So you're looking at the 16th of February up to the 9th of March. In the first day of it, the set being legal, we had 2 events. One was won by Lion, one was won by Dragon. And then after that, you started seeing the Phoenix games increase and increase and increase. So at the end of that, so to date, out of the 15 games that we've had, it has been... it's been 8 Phoenix wins. It's been 3 Crane wins, 1 Dragon, 1 Lion, and 1 Scorpion. So, Justin, you're the Phoenix player. Are Phoenix off the chain, totally dominating, wrecking the environment?
Yeah, I think they are. Okay. So the issue, as I see it, there may be others with I don't know, equal more experience who have a clearer or different idea. Essentially, what Design have done is Design have given Phoenix unparalleled tools to control both conflict deck and dynasty production. So for conflict control, they have Tadaka, they have Master of Gisei Toshi, and they have some very, very strong draw tools of their own. So they have quite a dominant position in terms of conflict control. Like they should be ahead or leading their opponent in terms of conflict production, conflict deck production throughout the game. And obviously, you've got Kyuden Isawa to get extra uses out of very, very powerful cards like Against the Waves, Clarity of Purpose, Supernatural Storm. And then on top of that, Phoenix also have effectively unparalleled tools for controlling dynasty production. And those started, I mean, we've seen Phoenix play Consumed by Fires for basically since they got the Secret Rare. But now with the addition of Isawa Ujina, Phoenix can have a two-pronged approach that will punish an opponent no matter what they do. So if you invest fate and cards into a character, if you like building towers, then your tower is going to get consumed and you are going to lose all that value. And if you do not build a tower, then Ujina hits the board and basically you take a huge hit in terms of your tempo because Ujina just starts blowing characters up on your board, which becomes very, very difficult to deal with. And this is on top of the standard kind of pressure that Phoenix can exert, which can be fairly extreme at times. So Phoenix they simply have the tools to dominate both sides of the game effectively. They can dominate on resource generation and they can dominate on conflict card play. And that's a really dangerous combination to have. So they're not unbeatable. From the games I've played, I think Crane splashing. So basically, what you really want is you want to have an innate counter spell that works outside of conflicts, which is Crane Scorpion. And then you want to have Yoga Kikuyo, who can be played in conflicts. And that gives you an ability to shut down the huge power plays out of Phoenix. So I think Crane and Scorpion are positioned to do quite well against Phoenix. And in terms of Phoenix, the other thing we forgot, of course, is Kuramori under the Stronghold, which means that even if you do kind of blitz out of the gate and break down in a Phoenix player's provinces quickly, most blitzy decks then run into Kuramori, which just switches them into just forces them to win on their weakest conflict type, which it can be, pretty difficult. So, I mean, Phoenix just have tools to cover almost all the bases at the moment. As I said, I do think Crane, Splashing Scorpion, and Scorpion themselves have a strong setup to beat Phoenix and can do very well against them. But as I said, I've been building and playing other decks. So I've built and played Dragon, Scorpion, Crane, Unicorn, and it feels like you're playing. It doesn't feel quite like you're playing a different game in the way that, Launch Edition Scorpion felt like you were playing a different game to other clans. But certainly when you're playing clans now, you're looking at your hand and looking at your board going, this is unbelievably weak compared to what Phoenix are doing. Like the level of Phoenix power is a significant step above what other clans are capable of at the moment. And it's a real problem. There are going to be significant restricted list additions and or bans to remedy this, unfortunately. And that is, it seems to be regrettable that that's kind of where the restricted list is heading at the moment. It seems to be as much a design tool as it is a tool for kind of fixing a few things that sneak through. So
how did we get here? How do we get here? Because I did similar to you. I put together a Phoenix list. I put together a Phoenix deck, and there's very little change in it there's very few of the new cards. Ujina makes it in. I think that's it, isn't it? Nothing else. And I mean, he's a
Gina makes it
fantastic
in.
he's a fantastic character,
Like
but you could survive without him.
Yeah, no, Ugin is really important because Ugin is the card that introduces the damned if you do, damned if you don't dynamic. So, like I was saying, like if you're in a position where you're investing heavily, like if you're building a tower, like you put 4 or 5 fate on a guy, and this is going to be your guy, this is your tower for the rest of the game, then you get consumed and you lose the game because of it. If you don't do that, and if you're going kind of on a wider board, just putting 1 fate or maybe no fate on characters, then Ugina arrives on the board and just starts, the void ring gets claimed, and all of a sudden, all your kind of 1 fate and 0 fate characters start popping off the board. And,
okay. So Ugina clears out the small guys.
Yeah, Ugina clears out. Yeah, Ugina clears out kind of the trash, if you want, or characters on low. And the thing as well, like Ugina has an invisible on him as well, because if Ugina is on the board, you cannot buy like a 3 or 4 cost character and put just 1 fate on them, because if you do, that character is just leaving the board, as very, very soon. So you're in a position where, like, when you're buying expensive characters, you then have to actually load them with more fate, which then just puts you in a position where you're going to get consumed and destroyed. So it creates this really, really awful dynamic when you're playing against Phoenix, where you just simply have no efficient out in terms of like how you build a dynasty board, because no matter what you do, you're going to get pushed.
Yeah. So you mentioned the restricted list, but the restricted changes didn't actually impact the Phoenix deck directly.
That's correct.
Is this purely the Scorpion?
Is it purely the Scorpion? I'm not sure.
So Scorpion essentially, we thought they lost, or many people thought that a Fate Worse Than Death was going, but after some testing, it's actually a Forged Edict that's gone. So Fate Worse Than Death is in the successful Scorpion decks, and Forged Edict is out.
Yeah.
And, Phoenix has often had a poor matchup against Scorpion, a lot of the times due to kind of glory issues and getting Dishonored being kind of poor for them, although that's not always the case. Is that matchup, is Scorpion kind of drifting down the ranks? And they're certainly not gone. We're seeing them in a lot of top 4 tournaments. Is that what's given Phoenix the edge?
No, Scorpion definitely aren't gone. I don't know. Certainly it's a contributing factor. I'm not sure. It's not the sole factor by any means. I mean, Phoenix have been quietly building a set of grossly overpowered cards that just synergize with each other unbelievably well.
Yeah. I mean, if we go back to the last set of stats that Simcoe put together for the previous, we can see that Phoenix did come out best out of the Scorpion clan pack, period. So they're slightly, not massive amount, but they are slightly above. And obviously we're kind of sitting on a lesser number of figures. And actually, this final slide that I have here that just shows all the events. These are all events that were children legal. I've cut all of the others out, and any of the splashes that are blank, we just don't know what they are. And then similar with the attendances that are blank. So a couple of interesting things on this that I think maybe we haven't really kind of factored in yet. The first is that last year, in this same period, we went from the WarpCon, and then there were no events from WarpCon until the Paris Kotai. That was the gap. All of these events that we're talking about here are all elemental challenges that didn't happen last year. So I think a lot of people are looking at this scenario where Phoenix, have a significant majority of events and are beginning to get worried. We're already hearing calls for, this card should get banned, this card should get restricted. But arguably, we were in a similar situation a year ago. It's just we didn't have the same ramp up for organized play. I think absolute credit to Asmodee Organized Play for getting these elemental challenges out. They've been a massive success. It is absolutely fantastic to see events popping up every week, essentially, at this stage. But the events we're also looking at are relatively small. We did have the Madrid event, which was 79, which was massive. And we've had a couple of other decent ones, like there was one in the US at 33, a couple of 20s, all good numbers. But it isn't an unprecedented situation. It's just we're getting kind of to see it in a more of a blow by blow analysis rather than the long stretches of time we had before.
Yeah.
Owen, what are your thoughts on it?
I think one of the big changes is like it's simple stuff like Phoenix are relying on Consume by Five Fires a lot for big economic advantage. Scorpion used to counter that by playing Forged Edict. They're no longer playing Forged Edict, and they're often replacing that with Censure. But Scorpion are going to struggle to get the favor against Phoenix unless they get it with the 3-cost. Yeah,
Fawning Diplomat.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's the only way they're going to get it against Phoenix. And favor controls can be very important in that matchup. So that gives Phoenix a negation edge. That's part of it. And the thing is, if you look at the restricted list for Phoenix, it's kind of like, okay, I can't play charge. All right, cool. Don't really have to make any other hard choices. Whereas other clans have to make choices about what they play. Dragons have been hit. So they can't play the all dot good stuff deck anymore. Scorpion have to make a hard choice. Crab have to make some choices that they weren't huge fans of. It's not as big anymore, but they don't really have to make any big choices. Crane don't have too many, and you're seeing the clans that aren't restricted in design, like Phoenix and Crane, really for the restricted list doing a bit better. So that could be a factor. But it's a lever they can throw. They can do another restricted list if they feel that Phoenix is getting too big. They could ban Tadaka. I think that might do something. See, Tadaka is this really negative play experience. In some games he does nothing. That's the thing. It's just some games he does very little. But in the games he does something, he can often cripple your opponent in a way that they don't have any get out.
Yeah.
And one of the things about it I actually think is that one of the cards that's kind of subtly a problem card is Display of Power. And now Display of Power, you will probably lose the province, all of that. But the thing is that with Display of Power, you can't outplay the Phoenix character and keep them from claiming some rings. So if you're like, okay, I've got to get Void so they don't get to trigger something, or they've got to get Earth, and you don't get to do that. They get to Void you, or they get to Earth you, or they get the control of the ring, so Tadaka switches on. And that's tough. They also, I think Phoenix got the best of the 1-costers with a conditional stat bonus.
Yeah.
In the character that's got +2/+2 for 1 ring.
Ethereal Dreamer.
Yeah, which is...
she's ridiculous. Yeah, she's incredible.
Which is actually pretty important. And the suite of great 4-drops they have, the lack of good 3-drops is mattering less. I think some better cheap people has helped out with that a lot. Another pass to restricted list, maybe we'll see. I mean, the thing is, what's probably going to happen is the Unicorn pack's going to come out, and Unicorn are going to be a little bit better, and the Crane pack's going to come out, and I think Crane are going to be ridiculous with Uji. I think Uji fits into any deck, and that's going to be...
Hold on to that thought, because I think we're already beginning to see some changes. So you mentioned A Fate Worse Than Death being played and Forged Edict going out. The Black Moon Games winner, the Scorpion that came out on top. So Ian Fight, that was a Kyuden Bayushi, super interesting deck. We'll make sure to link Simkoff's list. Actually, it's linked on Imperial Advisor. If you look at the Kotai list, I link off to it then, because the work he's doing, tracking all of those, is beyond the madness that I'm used to with just the Kotais. But it's a super interesting deck that takes Scorpion in a different direction. It actually has a lot of the Shinobi stuff in it. But it's playing 3 Forged Edicts. Could that Scorpion deck be the one that beats the Phoenix deck?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, to beat the Phoenix deck, the dynamic you need a cancel that you can reliably play outside of conflicts, and you need Kikuyo that you can play in conflicts. So what Phoenix are doing is they're looking to set up a situation where they've got the Master Gisei Toshi on the board. They lock out a ring, or they choose a ring with the Master Gisei Toshi, which means that no cancels can be played during that.
Yeah.
No events can be played during that. No non-spell events. And then they go in and they consume you, and there's nothing you can really do unless you've got Kikuyo who gets around that. But if that's the case, and they know that, then they will simply play Consumed by Five Fires out of the conflict. They'll play it out of conflict because Kikuyu can only be played during a conflict. So you need to have a situation where you can counter things both in the conflict and out of the conflict. Otherwise, you're getting consumed.
Yeah, I can see he's playing a censure as well, so he's certainly got the options. For,
yeah. And Phoenix are playing councils of their own, so you're up against. But in terms of kind of reliable dynamics that can put the Phoenix player into a difficult position and disrupt what the Phoenix deck is doing, that seems to be the strongest option so far. So I don't know. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, it could be a case that Phoenix force Forged Edict back into the environment as a means to combat their strategy.
Similarly, we're looking at 3 Crane victories, including the Shogun Eric Balhus, who won in the Belgium Elemental Championship. So in the last 5 events we've had 3 Crane, 2 Phoenix, and a Scorpion.
Yeah. And again, like my understanding of the meta and the environment is far from complete, but from what I do understand of it, it's Phoenix and the clans that can beat Phoenix, or the clans that can most easily beat Phoenix.
Yeah.
I think Phoenix is that performing now. I mean, even when you're building a Phoenix deck now, you're like, how do I beat other Phoenix players? That's the main question you're asking yourself, which is an ugly position to be in a card game. I mean, it's where God Tier Scorpion was, back about a year and a half ago.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Phoenix have just kind of arrived at that again. Yeah, but honestly, I think Phoenix are even more oppressive than that deck was, significantly more oppressive.
So one of the things that I certainly have the feeling is that, and I know this is something we've discussed before, that sometimes the meta is artificially dictated by the internet celebrities. So in this case, I think it's fair to say that a lot of players listen to the J-Throne, because there are some absolutely fantastic players there. And we're aware that Anil and Shen have both switched from Dragon and Scorpion respectively over to play Phoenix. So we've already seen a couple of wins. I think we can actually see Anil in there at least once. Yeah, Anil's in there. And, we know what that deck list is. Similarly, we've got Rob Smith, who's won, I think this is his 4th Elemental Championship. He's been wrecking his way through the UK recently. And that deck list is out there. But sometimes that kind of inspires people to go with the known meta and to kind of try either shift to that deck or focus on trying to beat that deck, or just it kind of fitting into kind of preconceived notions on what is the right way to go and what isn't the right way to go. And then to drag us in a slightly more controversial area, there have only actually been 5 European events. There have been 15 in total, 9 US, 1 Canadian, and 5 European. And out of those 5 European, Phoenix won 2, and Crane have actually won 3. Is Crane dominant in Europe? Oh, what do you think?
Historically, they... sorry.
My opinions on American versus European are pretty well known.
Oh, not by the audience. We've been keeping on the down low.
Cool. Right, so, over the course of time, American and European playstyles have traditionally been different. One of the things about American playstyles is they're often a lot more aggressive. They tend to play less cards that function in multiple matchups and instead pursue their own victory creation very strongly. And the American meta tends to be a lot more homogenous than the European meta, because the European meta has different play groups speaking different languages. You get a much more diverse meta, and there's less, this is accepted as the best deck, and everybody build your deck that way. And that's the way you play, and that's the cards you play. Nobody plays anything any different, and everything's nice and settled.
Yeah.
Over the years, playing off of War, both in the old edition for 20-something years and the new edition, I watched American players come to Europe. Not many, I'll agree, but they came to Europe and they never won anything. And I watched European players go over to America and they won Worlds all the time. They won Gen Con all the time. They won big tournaments all the time. So the idea that, oh, look, it's unsettled which playgroup is better. No, it was settled a while ago. It could change. They could come up with some big ideas and, revolutionize how to think, revolutionize the play. But it's a bit like, the American soccer team is as good as any European, country soccer team. Well, it's as good as some of the European soccer teams. Not all of them, It's the way it is.
So those are some fighting words, but I think there's a little bit of context to it.
Come at me, bro. Show your work.
So I think it's fair to say that the media resources of the English-speaking L5R community are vast and far-reaching. I don't know, but I suspect that we might have some Spanish and some French podcasts and media sources. I know there's a particularly good Madrid group that's regularly stream games that you could check in on, but it's obviously all in Spanish, so I don't really have any idea what's going on.
Spanish were traditionally massive spoilers. They were always playing something a bit different, and you'd often groan if you're taking on a Spanish player, going, "Oh God, what strangeness am I going to be playing against now?"
And I mean, we can see that in.
But they were great.
They were great, absolutely great, but they play completely differently to us. So you'd be like, "Oh God, what madness will I be taking on?"
But I think this plays very much into what you were saying about languages. And I think that's actually, bizarrely, I think it is a strength of the European environment, is that you do have pockets of players that really don't communicate with each other. So you don't have as homogenized an environment. Now, to pour a little oil on Eoin's stormy waters, I will say that from my point of view, from my observations, is that, there was an old saw years and years ago, which was Americans play to win and Europeans play not to lose, and that was kind of the fundamental difference between the two kind of groups. And certainly in my experience, and even in personal interaction, American players tend to focus on absolutely maximizing the efficiency of what their deck does, like relentlessly. Whereas the European approach is to be a bit more cognizant of what an opponent is doing and to put in measures to stop that or stymie that. And that was absolutely the case in the early days of L5R, like of old L5R. It was one of the most. It was blazingly apparent when you took a look at how the two different kind of player groups built and played. I think kind of they converged a bit over the years, but it's really interesting to see that I'm pretty sure they weren't great long words, actually. Sorry, yesterday. I'm pretty sure they were said long before. But anyway, neither here nor there. But it's just really interesting to see the same kind of hyper efficiency coming out of the American play groups. Whereas again, in the European play groups, you tend to see an awful lot more kind of scattered one-offs or just plain weird stuff in their decks, which is still finding success. And this has always been kind of a source of tension, I think, where the Americans look at these slightly inefficient European decks and go, "You're all idiots. You could easily increase the efficiency of this deck by 5% by making these simple changes." And you have the European.
I think I'm losing you.
I remember a couple of years ago in the L4 card game, one of the best players at the time, Andrew Ornatov, was smashing everybody around the States, and they were playing a Spider Breeder deck whose whole point was to make lots and lots of really cheap zombies and win the game that way.
Okay.
And he came over to big European event, Lyon, in like the World Championships that year to Europe, and he's kind of like, "Yeah, I'm pretty confident I'm going to do well." And he came to us at the end of the tournament, a shattered man. He said, I had 1.5 Claw and Shells, which is a card that destroyed zero-cost characters like free zombies in every game. What is wrong with you people? They just expect, why are you playing so much meta? I was like, because Europeans, we play meta. They looked at my deck and said, "Owen, you've got in your 40 card fate deck, or which conflict deck, you have 37 reactions. And I'm like, yeah, I like reactions, man. You know? So yeah, it's it's a bit like that. So I think you had more diverse. Like at the moment, you've got a couple people saying this is the meta, this is the way that it works, this is the only thing that wins, and it's a good, comforting place if you think you go to a tournament where you have all the answers and you've got your order of operations sorted in your deck and you've got your play automated. It's very comforting to be able to play that way. It's scary to see people play cards that they shouldn't play. How often have you sat next to somebody and someone gives out to you for playing a bad card? And you go, yeah, but it's you. And they go, no, yeah, but it's a bad card. You shouldn't be playing it. It's bad. Yeah, but I won with it. That's not the point. You know, you'll hear an argument like that all the time. And Europe, you're a lot more likely to hit what are going to often be termed bad cards. They're not necessarily bad cards. They're just kind of corner case cards. There's a lot of cards in the current format which are inefficient and maybe not terribly good. There's a lot of 2-cost attachments that are kind of efficient and not very good. But if you get them off, it's like, oh, well, that was ugly. Like Wicked Tetsubo, it was like, it's very expensive, 2-cost. And then you actually use Wicked Tetsubo and you're like, ooh, this is a problem. This is a big problem.
And yeah, a lot of it, it's very, very situational. Like, it depends on what your environment looks like. You know, are you expecting 50% of them to be bringing crab? In that case, you probably should be playing against that crab matchup, even if it's not necessarily what you'd expect to see in a top 4. And I think this is definitely something that was kind of cropping up last year, where I think Fro described some of the European decks as banana decks. I'm not quite sure where he was going with that, but obviously it wasn't a good idea. But the idea that there were like crazy cards were winning and it made no sense. Why were they playing these inefficient cards? Where Anil's, and like I played Copy of Test, it's a true work of joy as far as I'm concerned, is just lean efficiency. You know, it is pure, how do I win and how do I win more? Obviously, there are a couple of considerations, a couple of meta cards where you're like, you play your clouds, you have your let goes, the kind of standards. And I think the Phoenix deck that we're seeing now, for me at least, it played very similar to that test deck. And, you know, it's really, really focused on winning, on taking provinces, getting the job done. And it's also got a similar playstyle, at least it feels to me. The way I've been playing it is the easy turn 1, accumulate your resources, and then go in for a stronger turn 2 that's going to last throughout the rest of the game, and then play that kind of economy play. But I'm wondering if it is going to be some of the smaller pockets, like the hungry players, or the Paris contingent, the Madrid guys, who are going to be finding the options, are going to be finding those meta cards before we start seeing them crop up in the US, or whether, it is going to be the case that Phoenix is just dominant and have the options to win it. We're coming up to the Paris Kotai in 2 weeks, is it? I think it's pretty close. So I think this weekend is Paddy's, and then I think the weekend after that is actually the Paris Kotai. So that one is going to be interesting. Obviously, if we get into a situation where we're looking at the top 8 and it's all Phoenix, we definitely have an issue. But if it's been like most of the events have lately been, where you've been seeing like a range, like I think most of the events have had one Phoenix in the top 4, a Crane, a Dragon, and a Scorpion seem to be kind of numbers that pop up every so often. And obviously you'd like to see a few of the other clans in there, but even though Phoenix have been winning a lot of games, it feels quite healthy. And I can't help but get the feeling that while the Phoenix deck is probably the strongest deck in the environment, that the options are out there, and once players kind of adjust, we might start to see a little bit more of a balanced environment from the numbers.
Tell you what, like, if you're really hating on Phoenix, if you're really finding it miserable playing against them, you could splash Scorpion in your deck and run Yogo Kikyu and maybe even Forged Edict if you've got enough courtiers. And that will honestly severely test any Phoenix deck. It'll make certain things miserable for them. Because they rely on their spells going off occasionally. And when Kikyu goes up, I actually have to cancel that and I'm going to put this free 2/2 into play. That's an unpleasant day. Like, the Discord League banned Kikyu because she was too effective against Phoenix. The only card that
Okay. I need to give some context to this because we certainly could go on a rant because we personally and privately have definitely mocked that particular decision.
Yeah.
But okay, so because they want to kind of keep the play current without constantly having to stop people, redo their deck list every time something else comes in. They let the players change their deck lists in the early parts of it. Once they get into the final cuts, then you're locked into a certain deck list. But what they were finding was coming up to the Phoenix matchups, because you knew who your opponent were, a lot of players were just subbing in a bunch of Kikyus because it was a strong play. Now, obviously that's a problem. So to adjust to that, they banned Kikyu overall. But then some decks, like Marios, was already playing Kikyu in straight up tournaments. I mean, he played it down in WarpCon. So all of a sudden his matchups are suffering against that Phoenix deck, even though he would have been playing it naturally. And then everyone's playing Let Go against Dragon. Where are they playing Let Go against Dragon? Or the Crab matchup particularly. You want your 3 Let Goes and you want your 3 Mia Mystic. And there are meta choices that you're already making that are kind of similar to that Kikyu decision. So, which is why some people were criticizing. But I kind of understand the point. But yeah, it's certainly an interesting one. But it does suggest that Scorpion might be in a strong position. They just need to shift their deck style again, and maybe to, I think, was it Ian Fights options, and go with that Shinobi style deck, which no one is expecting.
John would like to mention that saying that Kikyu was banned for being too effective is a flawed argument because Let Go exists and wasn't banned. And presumably people would slot in Let Go against Dragon decks or whatever.
I completely agree with him. I agree. I think we should ban Let Go too.
I also think Let Go should eventually get banned. I think it's too efficient for what it is.
So
but it was actually interesting because I was thinking the way I think they made a change late in development, because for a while Maya Mystic bounced attachments to your hand.
Yeah, we saw that in previews.
The original, because you saw from the beta decks, the free attachments were all limited, so you can only play one a turn. And I think what the attachment destruction used to do, like Let Go, was actually return the attachments to your opponent's hand. So it meant that if you played a 2-cost attachment, someone could let go it, but only bounce it to your hand. Or they could Maya Mystic it, but only bounce it to your hand. But that cost you fade. And it meant that, hey, I'm playing down like Fine Katana. Well, that's my limited card for a turn. It gets bounced. Okay, well, now I can't play any more limited cards this turn. And it meant stuff like Doom Shigenja actually had a cost rather than this thing. Oh, it's got this theoretical cost. Are there any other limited cards? There's some. Not many. There are some.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It didn't destroy itself at that point either. It was just an action you could take.
Yeah, it was just bounce.
Yeah, because I remember there was some interesting interactions with that where your character was about to leave play, so you'd bounce an attachment to hand, so you could drop it on someone else, or you could end up with the same sword in 2 different conflicts because you were bouncing between them. There was a lot of kind of fun stuff that was happening with that. So I mean, I can understand why maybe they shifted that. But yeah, it's interesting with the different design choices.
I'd actually like them when they're doing a second edition of the game consider going back to that, because I think that's an interesting option. If attachment destruction was very rare, and instead of attachment destruction, you had a lot of bounce, where you just put an additional economic cost on it, so they don't have that major issue of, well, my guy died, so I lose my guy and my attachment. That sucks. My attachment just died. Well, I guess I lose my attachment.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see something like that, and I think that was an interesting design space, and it certainly meant Doom Shigenja is ridiculous because limited stopped being a restriction. Like if limited was still in on the free attachments, you wouldn't have seen Neaton Master be an absolute beast because it's like, well, whatever.
But have a look at the Ethereal Dreamer. Like the Ethereal Dreamer is very, very similar to the Doom Shigenja in many regards, but not limited. And yeah, obviously there's no other limited cards, so the only thing that the Doom Shigenja can't do is make 2 in the same turn. You have to kind of spread them out, whereas the Ethereal Dreamer you can. So I mean, obviously it was a design choice, and times change and shift, and things are happening. Oh, and so we've talked about banning Tadaka. How do you guys feel about Miyamoto's Daisho? Because I have in the games I played, once it got into a setup position, so I've got my character in play, I've got my Miyamoto's Daisho, and I've got a hand of duels, and I've got some stuff in on the character. My opponent a lot of time was looking at it, going, "Well, I can't attack, and I can't defend, so I guess I don't do anything." Because if they did, I was just going to duel them 5 or 6 times in a single conflict, and then they're going to lose by dishonor. Some players have been suggesting that that's essentially a negative player experience, an NPE. And based on that, even though no one is saying the deck is busted or out of control, that maybe it is a card that should be looked at. Justin, what do you think on that?
Yeah, I mean, I built Dragon Dueling and I've played it in a few games, and I mean, as Eoin was alluding to earlier, 2-cost attachments. Actually, 2-cost attachments in this game are generally utterly cancerous. They don't see play because of the huge opportunity cost of let go. If you spend 2 fate, put down an attachment, and someone let goes it, that's just terrible. But if they do stick, they can cause horrendous problems. And Miyamoto's Daisho is another one. And yeah, I mean, I started off playing 2, and after 2 games was like, nope, 3 straight away. This card is ridiculous.
Yeah,
there were games
with some warm welcomes just in case.
Yeah, I mean, there were games against there was a game against Scorpion where I was down to 2 or 1 honor. Apparently right on the cusp of losing the game, except that at the end of the first conflict I was on 6 honor and doing fine. So yeah, it's pretty crazy, and it's the fact that it isn't limited to a single use per turn makes it absolutely abusable. It would have been nice to see reaction, maybe use it up to 6 per turn. That might have been a better way of going about things, and still quite flavorful because you get the whole 2 uses thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's some card.
So
the fact that
we have heard a couple of reports of games where players started on starting honor, and at the end of the conflict was dead.
Yeah, I could believe that. So yeah, no, I could totally believe that. I think like the issue, I mean, what pushes the Daisho over the edge in terms of opportunity cost is that the other kind of 2-cost attachments do something really nasty, but they don't end the game if they go completely, if they go off. Whereas Miyamoto's Daisho can absolutely just end the game if it's not dealt with. So yeah, it's an incredible card, and it really needs to be looked at probably, which is a really sad thing to say because it's a tremendously cool card, and it's great to see 2-cost attachments that are actually worth playing. But if a 2-cost attachment has to break the game to be worth playing, then that is maybe an issue with let go rather than anything else. So yeah.
All right, so we've gone through a lot of the new news. We've talked about the decks we've been working on. We've looked at the environment. We've insulted the Americans. Is there anything we're missing?
Enjoying the game at the moment. I'm really enjoying playing.
Yeah, definitely. I really am too. I know. It obviously feels like Phoenix are in a really strong position, but at the same time, there do feel like a lot of different decks that we can work it. So, I mean, I'm also looking, I haven't put it together yet, but I've certainly been toying with the idea of a monk deck focusing on the humble and enigmatic magistrate, which I think makes a mess of the Phoenix numbers, and, drop as much covert and as much straighten actions as I can in and see how that works. Yeah, and there are other options in there, so there's definitely space for exploring.
There is. So, I mean, as I said, I think the issue with the Phoenix deck, particularly, again, in reference to the good old Broken Scorpion days of yore, is that it has a dynamic available to it that no other clan has available. and it's one that it's resource domination. It's exactly the same as the Scorpion deck. It's a resource domination deck, but it does it in a much more oppressive and broad kind of manner. So yeah, I genuinely do think Phoenix are a problem, and I'm not sure how you fix them. I'm not sure how you out scheme them beyond the kind of things we've already mentioned. I mean, I'm sure there are options, but they need to be looked at, I think.
Yeah, bunch of cancels, play your clouds. I'm relying on good omens to get me past those 5 fires. You know, have some voice of honors to surprise cancel. Yeah, but I mean, it's a template to beat, which is actually, it tends to be a nice thing. You can sit down with a deck, and if you have no limitations, you're like, the sky's the limit. I have no idea what to do. But when you've got one deck to beat, and you want to beat Phoenix, it's a lot easier.
Yeah. It is.
In 2 months, we're all going to be complaining about Uji being insane. That's what we're going to
have. Yeah.
In 2 months, we're going to have everyone complaining about Uji, bring us back to the buy one guy, then pass first in the dynasty phase, and then make everybody for super cheap because you can't dishonor the jerk.
Yeah, and I mean, Crane look really strong already. I mean, they're winning events. I haven't seen any of the start splashing Mermono's Daisho, but I certainly could envision that, and that's kind of a terrifying idea for me. And they're about to look into some new cards. Do we think Unicorn are going to be able to push it up? I mean, they're not doing as it's not like the dark days for them, but they're not in the top 4, right?
The Rhino's a big ad for them. It's very strong in Crab with the Berserker, but it's got a lot of play for them. What they kind of need to do is find a way to make sure their cavalry reserves lands. And I'm not sure how they do that. But they really want that to happen. They really want to get their cavalry reserves cast if they're going, "Roar, thunder of hooves, I'm going to take 3 provinces," you know? They really want something. I don't know if they have that trick yet. I think they're more interesting, they're more competitive than they were. Whew, just like they've got a lot of cool toys. They just got a big pile of new cards, and surely there's something.
Yeah, and the new stronghold.
I am going to get very upset if the new if the new 6-cost character they have doesn't actually work, because there's a concern that based on rulings he won't work.
Oh, explain that one.
John, how does it work again? John will tell us now in a second.
So tell us what the card is first. So
it's 6/6. So when he enters play, he's 6-cost 6/6. When they enters play, your opponent can reveal any number of provinces. For every one that they don't reveal, you put 1 fate on the character.
Okay. So no, there's a slight wrinkle. They can reveal any number of non-stronghold provinces.
That's it. Yeah.
And then it gets 1 fate for every unrevealed province, including the stronghold province. So it's always guaranteed to have at least 1 fate on it, and possibly a ton.
Okay, so what's the problem? He has a then clause.
Yeah.
Oh, so if they don't do anything, the then clause doesn't...
That's it.
Okay.
So presumably he'll get a functional rat or something to say, no, he works, does not work.
This is why it's important that designers fully understand the rules of their game.
Yeah. We're not sure as
they can avoid
rules, but
they should just hire John to yell at them, because he's
going
to do it anyway. So skip the middleman, which is us. All right. Well, hopefully they'll sort that out. And actually, will we see it actually? Will it be an actual errata, or will it just be ruled? Because that's what happened with the recent Crane personality as well. It just works, damn it.
Just wallpaper over it.
I'm sure it's fine.
Actually, do people have any requests for stuff from us? Because we're going to be reviewing cards they dribble out, but we're otherwise going to be just playing a game. Do people have any requests for stuff they'd like us to do?
While we let the chat answer that, because I do have a bit of a delay on the thing. one that's all been popular is looking at decks. So one of the things we might do is actually sit down and start doing some deck reviews. That might be just sitting down and building, the Dragon Dishonor deck, building that unicorn or that rhino crab deck, and I don't know. Do Phoenix have any building to do, or is it just perfect as is?
I think there are definitely. I think in Neil's deck, that version of it is a fantastic blueprint. I do think you can. I mean, yeah, you can do the European thing and just throw in a bunch of one-offs here and there and tweak it up a little bit. I really like one copy of Hante in the deck. I've played a few games with it, and when he turns up, it's beyond backbreaking. But yeah, it's the most efficient version of that deck for sure.
I think that was a consortium. I definitely believe that Neil was involved. I think it was a bunch of different players that were working on it. So it wasn't just the one.
Oh yeah.
But he's already won a few tournaments with it, so
yeah,
that's how these things work. All right, any thoughts on the chat?
They're talking about judging events, and we have some decks tossed up for us to take a look at. The Tsunami Smash from Awesome Scouty. Looks like it's a smash to your face Phoenix deck, all out offense.
Oh, so it's a line splash instead of...
Yeah.
It's always interesting. So then it's just the me and Mystics as the only way to deal with...
They got hand to hand. Hand to hand.
Oh, it's got hand to hand.
Hand to hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lions are much more attractive splash.
Yep.
And then my Ancestor's Strength. Ooh, that's interesting.
It's a great political buff. That's the big thing it has. And it's actually really much stronger in Phoenix in some ways than it is in Lion. Particularly because, hey, you can reuse it.
Yeah, I mean, and you've got a 6/6. You've got the big dumb bird that you can just copy onto your tiny little 1/1 Shigenja. And make them enormous.
That does look kind of well fun.
A lot of pump in this deck. A lot of pump.
Yep, it's a very angry deck. Again, are we talking about this deck?
Because I mean, if you want to, you can. We're into like almost 2 hours at this stage, but I got nowhere better to be. So.
We're like the old days, the all or nothing days, 2 hour days.
Yeah, indeed. As I said, just looking at it quickly, I mean, I won't go into it in any great depth. I would certainly automatically include 3 Shrine Maiden in any Cute and Sour deck. She, 1/1 conflict characters are amazing. She digs you towards your key cards, which are my Ancestor Strength, as well as picking up other power cards like Storms, Displays, the whole works. Benton's Touch isn't a super great card. I'd strongly consider walking the way for this deck because, again, the other part of your combo is the bird, Bashicho, so you want to dig toward that as soon as possible. And it's also got combo potential with... Oh my god, you're not playing Charge. Oh, wow. Okay, so you're playing against the waves and not Charge, which is actually perfectly reasonable.
Wait.
No, he's playing Tadaka instead of Charge.
Oh, sorry, Tadaka. Sorry, I'm back in the old days. Okay, so that's a different take on things. I would still play the 3 Shrine Maidens, however.
So yeah, on Shrine Maiden, I've heard a couple of players suggest that Shrine Maiden is a problem because of the completely random situation where basically you pop 3 spells. Yay! Or even 2. Like the spell density is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's about 8. It's usually kind of about 17, 18, 19, between that. I'd say an average of 17 to 18. And yeah, like Shrine Maiden is another problem card. The potential for drawing multiple spells off her is pretty high, and yeah, it's free cards, and it's not like the spells that Phoenix are playing are bad cards, because they're not. They're all amazing. So you are drawing like the serious power cards of your deck. She's helping you draw those. Um, so yeah, no, she absolutely is. No, actually, I'd need to going through this now is going to be difficult, because it's fundamentally, because it's not running charge and is running Tadaka instead. It's actually quite a different build, the one that I'm more familiar with. I'd need to sit down and actually analyze this a bit more to figure it out. But we could definitely take a look at it next week or next time.
All right.
But I do like that. I do like Vassal Fields. I think that's a really good card. Really interesting card.
Yeah, and with the obviously you're not sure whether you're going to see them up in the top ranks or not, but that Unicorn Splash, the new one cost two military character or conflict character they have, that just shuts it down. Yeah, that's a definite reason to not run. So with Vassal Fields, what are your options? Are
upholding is the standard.
Yeah, and it just shuts down upholding. But you also had public
forum, which the new guy also switches off. No, I think Vassal Fields is like the thing with like, I think Vassal Fields is certainly a viable option in kind of like the Phoenix Ugina consumed deck, because it's another way of attacking their fate. So they bump into it, you eat their fate. Like they bump into meditations, you eat a fate on a guy. So you constantly just attack their resources, and you go after them relentlessly. So I think it's absolutely a viable option there, and pretty decent. I mean, going into a conflict with one or two fates and having that one or two fate eaten is never a good feeling.
Yeah, and a lot of conflicts you go in with just the one fate, because you just need the one fate. Those are all the options you need.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, we definitely take a look at this next time. But as I said, I'd need to sit down and actually analyze it a bit more to see exactly why the choices have been made. So,
all right, let's start wrapping this up. So, thank you for listening to episode 46 of Imperial Advisor. You can check out our content on imperialadvisor.com, and you can keep up to date by following Imperial Advisor on Facebook and Twitter. So we are going to be signing off for 2 weeks, and we hope to see you after that. So that'll be after Paris. So we will have a better idea of what's going on, and hopefully we'll have a good chance to look at the decks from that, and we maybe will talk around that a little bit more. All right, have a good one.
Take it easy. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
All right, do the Irish bye. 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 Bye.
Happy St. Paddy's Day.